Clare Morrison was a 13-year-old living with her parents in Geelong, Victoria, Australia. Clare was a typical rebellious teenage girl who had recently started socializing with street kids and started smoking cigarettes. However, she did have plenty of school friends as well. On December 18, 1992, Clare and her friend visited Geelong Mall. Clare told her friend that she was going to take the bus home and get some money for Christmas shopping. This would be the last time she was seen alive. Some witnesses saw her walking down Little Mile of Street Mall towards Moorabool Street, where she was supposed to meet a friend at a McDonald's food outlet. The witnesses claimed that she appeared to be drunk. When she did not arrive home, her family reported her missing. The next day, on December 19, 1992, her near-naked body was found near Bells Beach by a surfer. Her body was found battered, strangled, and thrown into the sea. Her body was also attacked and bitten by sharks, making it difficult for the coroner to determine the cause of death. The only lead the police were able to find was from an 18-year-old named Shane McLaren. He claimed to have seen Clare getting into a blue Holden Commodore with two men. Police spent next few months searching for this car. However, several months passed and police discovered that the report was false and Shane confessed it was all a lie. Police arrested him for perjury. Shane McLaren was a self-confessed ice addict and remains the only suspect in her murder. Shane said that he was a friend of Clare and had been socializing with her at the time she went missing, but maintains that he had nothing to do with her murder. He said he made the false report because he wanted to get in trouble. After this lead was found false, Clare's brother said the police lost interest in the case and the case went cold. There have been no updates in the case since, and there's a $50,000 reward for any information regarding her murder. On 24 December 1972, Jacques Mechinaud, his wife Pierrette, and their two children Eric and Bruno left their home in the village of Poitiers-Saint-Trojan, France, to visit Jacques' friend in Cognac for Christmas Eve. Jacques and his friend worked together at the Saint-Gobain glass plant in Chateau Bernard, and both families knew each other very well. The evening went well and everyone ate dinner and played games late into the night. Around 2 a.m., the Mechinaud family took their leave and got into their maroon-colored Simca 1100 to drive to their house. The distance between their houses was only 3 kilometers, and it would have taken no more than 10 minutes for Mechinaud family to reach back at their house. However, they would never arrive back at their home. They seemingly vanished into thin air. A week later, after not hearing from their family, Jacques' parents reported them missing. The police entered the Mechinaud home and found children's Christmas presents still wrapped under the Christmas tree. In the refrigerator, they found turkey and oysters that had gone bad. All of their belongings were left at the house, including the checkbook, which was left at the coffee table, suggesting the family never returned to their home. A massive search was carried out by the police. On the night the family disappeared, visibility was low as a thick fog had settled over the town. Given the weather conditions, police believed the car could have swerved and fallen into the water. Every nearby river and pond was searched extensively by divers. Helicopters searched the surrounding area for any sign of the vehicle or tire tracks, while volunteers and police searched extensively on foot, but to no avail. Soon after the search was over, a rumor started to circulate that Jacques' wife, Pierrette, was involved with another man and was thinking of divorcing Jacques. Jacques' brother confirmed that his brother had told him and a colleague of his about the affair. However, there is no evidence to suggest that this had anything to do with their disappearance. Jacques' friend in Cognac said the family seemed happy and nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary about their behavior on the Christmas Eve. The Mechinaud family had also went shopping together the day before. In 2011, Charente River was searched with the help of sonar and subsequently dredged for kilometers. Large-scale excavations were also carried out in Cognac and surrounding area, but no trace of the family was ever found. In 2012, Human bones of an adult and a child were found at the edge of Courserac Wood near Mesa, 20 kilometers from Boutiers, but a DNA test revealed the bones did not belong to Mechinaud. In 2013, a maroon Simca 1100 matching that of Mechinaud's vehicle was found in Charente River, about 50 kilometers from Boutiers. However, an analysis of the number plate and the registration revealed the car did not belong to Mechinaud family. There have been no updates in the case since, and it remains open and unsolved. In 1958, Kenneth and Barbara Martin lived with their 3 daughters, Susan, Virginia, and Barbie, in Portland, Oregon. Their 28-year-old son, Donald, was stationed in New York with the Navy. On December 7, 1958, Kenneth and Barbara climbed into their red Ford station wagon with their 3 daughters and headed to Columbia Gorge to find a Christmas tree. They left around 1 p.m. and people who knew the family said that Kenneth did not like to drive in the dark, so it was suspicious that he left that late into the cold winter day. The family would never return back to their home. On December 9, Kenneth failed to turn up at his job at Eccles Electric Home Service Company. The family was then reported missing by Kenneth's boss. The police checked the Martins' home and found everything in the house was left undisturbed. A load of laundry was in the washing machine, dishes were left draining in the drying rack, and Kenneth's Santa Claus suit from a Christmas party the previous night was laid out. During their initial investigation, a gas station worker reported seeing the family stop at his gas station to purchase 5 gallons of gasoline. The gas station was situated in Cascade Locks, 40 miles east of Portland. 2 weeks later, a credit card bill arrived at the Martin family's home, confirming the sighting. Shortly after this sighting, a waitress named Clara at the Paradise Snack Bar in Hood River reported serving the family at around 5 p.m. The waitress said after finishing their meal, the family headed towards the Dales. Several motorists reported seeing the family along the north bank of Columbia River in Washington state. In February 1959, a searcher discovered tire tracks leading off a cliff in the Dales. The police determined the tracks were same as the Martin family's car. Paint chips were also found at the scene and subsequently analyzed by the police. It was determined the paint matched that of Martin's family car model. The river was searched with the help of sonar, but no trace of the vehicle was found. 3 months later, on May 1, 1959, a river drilling rig close to where the tire tracks were found hooked something heavy on its anchor. However, before the object could be pulled out and inspected, it dislodged from the anchor. The next day, a fisherman and his wife reported seeing what they believed to be 2 bodies floating in the river near Cascade Locks. On May 3rd, the police found Susan's body on the north bank of Columbia River near Camas, Washington. The next day, Virginia's body would be found near Bonneville Dam. An autopsy of both girls was performed at the Multnomah County. One technician reported seeing what he believed to be bullet holes in their heads. However, according to medical examiner's report, no such injuries were found and the cause of death was determined to be drowning. Autopsies found both girls had eaten hamburgers and fries, and since the waitress at the Paradise Snack Bar had seen the family around 5 p.m., the cause of death was determined to be between 6 and 7 p.m. Traces of metal were also found on Susan's clothing. Sheriff Rupert Gilmouth concluded that the oil rig had overturned the Martins' car, and when it was dislodged, it opened one of the doors of the car, allowing Susan and Virginia's body to escape to the surface. Searches were again carried out in the river with the help of sonar and divers, in the hopes of finding the car and the other family members, but to no avail. Bodies of Kenneth, Barbara, and Barbie were never found. While police believed Martin's vehicle accidentally drove off the cliff, others suspected foul play. On December 9, the day the Martin family was reported missing, the police found a stolen white Chevrolet in Cascade Locks. The vehicle was registered in Venice, Los Angeles, California. The following day, Roy Light and another unnamed man were arrested in connection with the stolen vehicle. Both men had been arrested before and served time for unrelated crimes. It was later found out both men had been at the Paradise Snack Bar at the same day and at the same time as Martin family. The waitress also reported the two men had left around the same time as the Martin family. However, this lead wasn't investigated further by the police. A few days later, a .38 Colt Commander handgun was found not far from where the stolen Chevrolet was found. The gun had dried blood on it and seemed to have been used to hit someone with it. The gun's serial number was traced to Meyer and Frank department store. It was later found the gun was among several stolen items that Kenneth's son, Donald, was accused of stealing when he was working at the Meyer and Frank department store. Donald reportedly had strained relationship with his family. Suspiciously, Donald never participated in any of the searches carried out for his family and stayed in New York. On December 28, 1958, a woman's glove was found close to where the stolen Chevrolet was found. A family friend said the gloves looked exactly like the one Barbara used to wear. However, it was never confirmed if the gloves actually belonged to her. Donald was considered a suspect in his family's disappearance, but there was never enough evidence to implicate him. The Multnomah County believe foul play is involved in the family's disappearance. No further searches were conducted, and the bodies of Kenneth, Barbara, and Barbie have never been found.
Patty Inez Brightwell Vaughan of Lavernia, Texas, was only 32 years old at the time of her disappearance on Christmas in 1996. Patty was a trim and attractive mother of 2 sons and a daughter. After 13 years of what many would describe as a not-so-blissful marriage, Patty and her husband, Jerry Ray, who many said was controlling and was known as JR by those closest to him, decided to go on a trial separation. This would be the beginning of the end. Texas does not recognize legal separation, and both adults were considered married until their legal divorce. However, to solidify the separation, JR took up residence in an apartment nearby in San Antonio, while Patty stayed at home with her 3 children, who were just 9, 8, and 6 years old. Sources close to the family say that Patty was a dedicated, loving, and capable caretaker to her 3 children. After the separation, Patty began working at Quinney Electric and reconciled with an old boyfriend of hers, Gary, whom she finally introduced to her family on Christmas Eve. This long-awaited Christmas Eve meeting of Patty's children went well, and according to those close to her, Patty was feeling hopeful about this Christmas season. The last time Patty was seen by someone other than her soon-to-be ex-husband was on Christmas Eve, December 25, 1996. On Christmas Day, Patty's soon-to-be ex-husband, JR, had plans with her to share an evening meal with their 3 children together before Patty would pack the children up and drive them to her cousin's home for the holiday break. JR's sister, Marilyn, was also scheduled to join them at this dinner. The dinner would never happen. Patty was last heard from on Christmas Day morning, the day everyone was scheduled to have dinner. When Patty's sister, Janine, called her, JR answered instead. Eventually, Patty's sister was able to speak with Patty, and her then 18-year-old sister recalls that she sounded like she had been crying. Janine says that when they had spoken to each other that morning, her sister unsurprisingly revealed that she and JR had gotten into yet another argument, which had led to her crying. But her sister recalls that that type of behavior was not out of the ordinary. Janine says about JR and Patty, quote, "He made her cry every holiday." Some sources say that various family members attempted to stop by during the day, with JR not allowing them to see Patty, saying she was too ill. At around 6 p.m. that night, JR's sister came over, ready for the dinner, but her brother insisted that Patty wasn't feeling well and was laid up in bed. JR requested that Marilyn take the children away from the home and bring them to a relative's house for Christmas dinner instead. According to her statement, Marilyn never saw or spoke to Patty face-to-face. JR later told investigators that he and Patty had been fighting for much of the day. JR claims that after Marilyn took the kids and left, he and Patty continued fighting, and he alleges that Patty ended up so angry that she left the house in a rage of her own accord in her 1991 blue Dodge Caravan. She was last known to be wearing a cream-colored blouse with black slacks. Patty was beautiful, with eye-catching curly light brown hair and piercing green eyes. She had a decent amount of jewelry on, including a bracelet, a gold watch, a gold ring with a shell-type design on her right hand, a necklace with a heart-shaped diamond pendant, diamond stud earrings, a wedding band, and she may have also been wearing a thumb ring. As far as distinguishing features go, Patty has a tiny mole on the right side of her chin, and she also bears an appendectomy scar on her abdomen. According to her husband, an unreliable source at best, Patty simply walked away from her life and her family when things had been going so well for once. The next day, December 26th at 1:30 p.m., Patty's boss saw her van parked 15 miles from her home and 5 miles from her workplace on the side of the road on Texas State Highway Loop 1604. The van had a flat tire, but interestingly enough, it had been deliberately flattened. Someone had let the air out. It had not been punctured nor damaged, but intentionally sabotaged. JR claimed to know nothing of this. Inside the van, investigators found traces of blood and evidence that the van's carpet had recently been cleaned. After significant time had been given for any perpetrators to clean up, investigators finally searched the house using luminol spray, which lights up according to the presence of blood. Investigators found traces of blood on the bathroom floor, as well as the bedroom floor. There were also microscopic traces of blood on the mop and bucket in the garage of Patty's house. This blood-laced mop seemed to match the narrative that a crime scene had been cleaned up off the bedroom floor, as the luminol showed significant swipe marks as if someone had been cleaning. Ignoring the glaring danger in this decision, investigators allowed JR, who had moved back into the house just one day after Patty mysteriously disappeared, to stay in the home while it was being canvassed, searched, and swabbed. Marilyn, JR's sister, also moved into the home, presumably to aid in the care of the 3 young and confused children who had been left without their mother and without answers. JR callously and cruelly told the kids that their mom had left willingly. Marilyn was said to have been very distracting in the evidence collection process at Patty's house, often objecting to the detectives' methods and distracting the crime scene technicians. Back at the abandoned van that had been found the day after Christmas and towed to the police station, detectives recovered a man's red jumpsuit with the initials JM sewn in. Police requested DNA samples from JR and the children, but he refused and did not acquiesce until the judge signed a court order mandating that he and the children provide DNA samples for purposes of investigation into Patty's disappearance. This allowed the blood in the van and the house to be analyzed, and it was shown to be that of the missing mother. While the supposed grieving father was still supposedly processing his wife's disappearance, not 24 hours after Patty had supposedly left, he filed for divorce. JR became secretive and aloof with investigators, refusing to answer their questions and forbidding the children from being interrogated. Patty's new beau, Gary, was however very cooperative and helpful with police. He had a credible and detailed alibi for Christmas Day. Gary was also willing to provide whatever exculpatory evidence was necessary. Because of investigators' access to his DNA, Gary was never considered a suspect. Because JR was a building contractor and was currently working on building 2 elementary schools in Pleasanton, Texas, people were fearful that he may have concealed the evidence of his crime in the foundation of the school. But after further investigation, it was proven that the concrete for the foundation he was working on had been laid 4 days prior to Patty's disappearance. In 2012, after a retesting of objects recovered in Patty's van, unknown female DNA was found that the state has still not identified. While a source close to the investigation says that they have a good idea who the DNA might belong to, they lack substantial evidence to compel a DNA swab from that individual. Many people watching this case for the last 23 years believe that this unknown female DNA could possibly belong to Marilyn, JR's sister. JR moved to Colorado with his 3 children and then to Idaho, where he is now living under an assumed name. JR has not been cooperative in further investigations. In 2014, police did some digging at one of the former properties of JR in Atkins, Wilson County, Texas, but no new leads were uncovered. Patty's mother, who has unfortunately been kept from her grandchildren all these years by JR and his family, is now dying of cancer and desperately wants to see her grandchildren, or at least know the whereabouts of her daughter's body before she dies. It is believed that 3 people possibly assisted JR in this crime, and while no further evidence has been released, police are dutifully investigating any leads and hope that anyone with information on the disappearance of Patty will contact Bexar County Sheriff's Office at 210-335-TIPS. That's area code 210-335-6000.